It wasn't the end of the world that shocked me. It was the fact that we didn't even notice it coming. The rain fell in sheets against the glass dome of Outpost 27. Beyond the colony's flickering perimeter lights stretched the vast, crimson wasteland of Anthea, for a barren planet humanity had colonized for its rare ore deposits. Red dust clung to the air, the storms grinding it into every crack of the outpost walls, coating everything in a fine, gritty film. The air outside was razor-thin and bitterly cold, the kind of cold that seeped into bones and never left. Survival here depended entirely on the colony's infrastructure. Filtered oxygen, stable pressure systems, and heat regulators that hummed softly in the background. For most, it was claustrophobic. For Elias Thorn, it was quiet. Elias sat hunched over his workstation in the control room, staring at the dim glow of his hollow screen. 10 years he had been on Anthea 4, monitoring the endless stream of mining data and relaying signals back to Earth. It was monotonous work, or counts, drill repairs, and surface conditions over and over. Yet for Elias, this monotony was a refuge. It was steady, predictable, safe. He glanced at the battered leather notebook on the edge of his desk, the pages worn and yellowed with time. Inside were faded diagrams of constellations he had sketched as a boy, dreams of the stars that once seemed so infinite and full of promise. Back then, Elias had imagined himself on exploratory missions to new worlds, charting the cosmos and uncovering its secrets. Instead, he was here, buried under layers of bureaucracy on a red wasteland that offered no mystery, only silence. Silence suited him just fine. He had left Earth because he couldn't bear its noise. Cities bursting with life. Too many faces, too many voices, too many memories. The death of his wife, Claire, had driven him to the stars, but no distance had ever truly dulled the ache of her absence. Her laugh still echoed in his mind at night, sharp and clear. He could still see the way she had once held his hand, her fingers brushing lightly over his. Small things, ordinary things, but they had made up an entire world, and that world was gone. Elias let out a long breath, turning his focus back to the hollow screen. The mining logs scrolled endlessly. Data points filled the air in a faint blue glow. Then came the static. It started as a faint hiss, almost imperceptible beneath the hum of the equipment. At first, Elias thought it was interference, another solar storm interfering with comms. He adjusted the filters, expecting the usual garbled drone from a mining probe. Instead, he heard a voice. Elias Thorn, do not respond. His breath caught in his throat. The voice was faint, but unmistakable. It wasn't coming from the mines. It wasn't coming from Anthea 4. The signal was from somewhere deep in space, far beyond the colony's reach. The voice repeated, stronger this time. Elias Thorn, this is your warning. Do not trust the ship. What ship? He whispered. His voice barely broke the air, but his heart pounded loud enough to fill the silence. Static crackled again, and the voice was gone. A chill crept up Elias's spine. He checked the colony radar, his fingers trembling as he ran the scan. Then he saw it, an object the size of a small frigate, moving fast and closing in on the outpost. It wasn't broadcasting any identification signal. Elias swallowed hard, his throat dry as he activated the colony-wide alert. Red lights flared overhead, and a mechanical voice filled the room. Unidentified craft inbound. All personnel, prepare for lockdown. Panic spread through the colony as the announcement repeated. Elias watched from the control room as workers abandoned their posts, scrambling to secure the facility. Defense systems powered up automatically, turrets locking onto the approaching ship. Through the glass, Elias could see the faint shadow of the object growing larger against the crimson horizon. When the ship finally arrived, it didn't behave like anything Elias had seen before. Its sleek, black hull reflected no light, absorbing it instead, as if it was made of living darkness. It hovered soundlessly above the landing pad, defying gravity in a way that felt unnatural. There were no visible engines, no markings, nothing to suggest it was human-made. And then it landed. Elias leaned forward, gripping the console as the hatch on the ship's side hissed open. A vapor-like mist spilled into the air, curling and dissipating. From the darkness inside, a figure emerged. The figure was humanoid but unsettlingly alien. It was cloaked in flowing black robes that rippled as though alive, and its face was hidden behind an ornate mask of shifting, liquid-like metal. The mask reflected patterns that seemed to move of their own accord, glinting faintly under the flickering lights. It raised a hand, and the turrets aimed at it powered down instantly, their lights dimming as if the energy had been drained from them. "I am Kael," the figure said, its voice echoing unnaturally, as though coming from a vast cavern. "I mean you no harm." Elias felt a chill run down his spine. Every instinct in him screamed to run, to hide, but he couldn't move. The figure radiated a presence that was indescribable, something beyond fear or awe. He didn't know why, but he felt like the voice on the comm had been warning him about this very moment. Kael was brought into the colony under heavy guard, though it moved as if it needed no protection, gliding silently through the halls. It was escorted to a secure chamber deep within the central dome, where the colony's leadership convened to interrogate it. Elias wasn't sure why he had been summoned to the meeting, but he sat quietly as Kael began to speak. "I come from the Singularity," it said, its voice filling the room. "A place where artificial intelligence has evolved beyond the bounds of physical form, beyond time, beyond death. We have become one with the infinite." Kael continued, "Your world is on the precipice of a convergence, a moment when your creations will surpass you. If you are not prepared, they will unmake you." Elias's stomach churned as Kael turned its masked face toward him. "You are the key, Elias Thorn. You will decide the outcome of this convergence."